Every day we unknowingly consume hundreds of products. What's going on, curious young people? While some are clearly made, others have a curious process behind them. And even though many people don't stop to think about such a complex process, behind the honey they're eating or the gum they're chewing, other curious people like Mr. Curiosity need the answer to everything. For this and much more, these are 10 things you consume every day and didn't know how they're made. 1. Peanut butter. Production begins at a peanut farm. The plant responsible for giving us peanuts grows like any other plant, but the fruit we want is underground, since the pods that contain the peanuts develop just like potatoes. After harvesting the peanuts, we take them to the factory where the pods are removed. Afterwards, he removes the skin and the center of the peanut, known as the heart since it is too hard. The next step is for the peanuts to go through an oven at a few degrees Celsius, where they will be roasted and develop a stronger flavor. Afterwards, they go into a machine that simply blends them, forming a very thick paste to which salt, sugar, and some stabilizer are then added. And now it's ready to move on to its final stage. It's poured into clear jars, satisfyingly labeled, and that's it. 2. Vinegar. If we're talking about condiments, we have to talk about vinegar. Although nowadays you can find apple or rice vinegars, the original vinegar is made from grapes, and that's also where its name comes from, since vinegar means sour wine. Let's look at the process. The vinegar will be born in a grape plantation, where some harvesters will choose the bunches they consider ripe. Once they harvest them, they go through a machine that separates the grapes from the rest of the bunch. Then, the grape juice, along with the pulp, goes through a press that gives us the maximum amount of juice possible without any solid residue. Now, for this grape juice to turn into vinegar, it is cooked slowly for about 24 hours. The following day, the dark liquid is transferred into oak barrels. Inside them are acetic acid bacteria that will be responsible for turning the sugar into acid. Finally, after fermenting for several months or even years in a barrel, it is removed and placed into small bottles. 3 Honey is an incredible product, no matter how you look at it. Not only is it the work of one of the most incredible species on the planet, but it is also a food that has been consumed for thousands of years. To get a little honey in our hands, we first have to go to a field where the worker bees collect nectar from the flowers and take it to the hive. At this point, other bees chew it and turn it into glucose and fructose. Now they deposit these in the wax combs built earlier and use their wings to keep them warm, to make all the water evaporate and leave only a thick, sweet substance, which we call honey. After this, some beekeepers approach the hives and collect the honey-filled combs. These are placed in machines known as uncapping machines, which are responsible for removing all the honey and wax from the comb. Those combs that still have honey residue are placed in a machine to extract all the honey using centrifugal force. Lastly, the honey is filtered to eliminate wax residues and placed in various containers. Thank you for the honey, Barry Benson. 4. Sports sneakers. Depending on the reason you want a sneaker, you could buy any model and brand. But today, we're going to focus on New Balance sports sneakers. The first step is to cut different shapes from the materials that will form the structure of the sneaker, using sharp molds and a large press. After cutting, details such as size or model labels are added before proceeding to the initial sewing stage. A sewing machine is used to join the different materials that were placed in molds, and then a person guides a second machine to finish shaping the sneaker. When the upper part is ready, it is placed on a mold of a human foot to finish giving it the correct shape. And this, together with the sole that was made in another area, are placed inside an oven to heat both parts. Then they are joined together and placed in a machine that will apply more pressure and heat so that they are ready. Finally, the human foot mold is removed, laces are added, the shoes are boxed and ready for a run. 5 tires. To make a tire, the first thing we need is a large amount of substances, including natural and synthetic rubber, black dye, sulfur, and other chemical ingredients that are necessary to give the rubber its shape and structure. The ingredients are combined with heat and pressure in a large mixer. then pass through pressure cylinders to form a large mass. After this, polyester threads begin to be added to a part of the tire to give it more structure and strength. Blades then cut sections of the rubber mass and steel wires are placed inside, which will later help maintain the perfect shape that the tire needs to have. Now it moves on to a machine where robotic arms will place one by one each of the parts that were assembled earlier to create a wheel. The last and most important step is when this wheel is placed inside a mold that, with a bit of heat, pressure, and some blades, gives our tires their final shape. 6. Seda. Silk is a very delicate material that has a process behind it that will really leave you amazed. The first thing we need to do is go to a silk farm, where thousands of Bombyx mori, also known as silkworms, live in optimal conditions. And after spending 40 days eating mulberry leaves nonstop, they go on to produce a silk cocoon where they will transform into butterflies. And that's where all the magic happens. These worms use their mouths to form a single silk thread, kilometers long, to build their home. Then, some workers steal their silk homes and the cocoons are placed in hot water so that the silk threads separate from each other and begin to be gathered into a large silk thread, much longer and thicker. And if you were wondering about the caterpillars, do the workers end up eating them? Let's continue. The silk threads are placed in various machines that gather them, then left to dry. However, silk only has one color, so it is dyed with different products to achieve a variety of colors. Now the silk is ready and it is sent to the looms to finish forming rolls of silk. Good job. Organs, 7 ice cream cones, the cones, wafer cones or ice cream cones, whatever you call them. Maybe it's one of the most environmentally friendly inventions ever created in history. The fact that we have an edible container allows us to save a lot of waste. But how are they made? The first thing we need is a good amount of brown sugar. Then we add food coloring, caramel, and other secret ingredients. And while this is being mixed, water, flour, and vegetable oil will be added. The liquid mixture is placed in a refrigerated container to maintain consistency. And a few minutes later, it will be placed onto a conveyor belt in an exact measurement. And some molds will be in charge of cooking them into a certain shape, while the entire belt passes through an oven for a few seconds. With this, we get several wafer discs that are placed into cone molds to finally give them that well-known shape. Now, if we want to eat closed cones, the process is the same, except the mixture is placed into closed molds. After a few minutes with the heat on top, it's ready. 8. Hummus. Widely consumed in the Middle East as a side dish, hummus has become very popular in the culinary world. First, a large shipment of clean, dry chickpeas arrives at the factory from a nearby farm. After this, the chickpeas are washed with water and left to rest for 48 hours in containers filled with water, so that they absorb moisture, soften, and even double in size. Then the water is removed and they are taken to an oven that will cook them for a few minutes to finish softening them and give them a darker color. The chickpeas are then seasoned with salt, garlic powder, and oil. All ingredients are mixed in a large grinder to create a uniform paste, which is then packaged and sold to consumers. 9. Chewing gums. Chewing gum or bubble gum, depending on where you live, is perhaps one of the most consumed candies in the world for years. But did you know how they are made? It all starts with a gum base. These small balls, which used to be made from natural resin, are now made with plastic and synthetic rubber. Yes, but it's apparently non-toxic. Let's continue with the process. Then coloring and flavoring are added and everything starts to get mixed together. Seconds later, glucose syrup is added to further soften and sweeten the gum mixture. Everything mixes for about 20 minutes, and with heat, it all melts into a large, uniform pink mass. The mixture is ready, and a machine uses a mold and pressure to turn the mass into long pink strips, which will later be cut into small pieces. Now the gum is ready, but it needs to cool down so it doesn't stick to the wrapper. So it spends a few minutes in a cooling room. After this, it's ready for a machine to cut the strips into small pieces of gum, and then robotic arms wrap them. Mozzarella, like all cheeses, begins with milk. When a truck transporting thousands of liters of milk reaches the factory, this liquid goes through a process known as pasteurization, where harmful bacteria are eliminated through the use of temperature. Afterwards, the milk receives a few liters of rennet, which will start the process of solidifying the milk. After a few minutes of mixing and stirring the milk with a bit of heat, the rennet takes effect and small lumps of solid milk begin to form. This liquid and solid mixture is transferred to some aluminum trays, where the milk will begin to be filtered to keep only the solid part, which will become cheese. After being mixed briefly, the small cheese pieces are already dry and move toward a shredder. The mass forms a large, elastic substance that will be molded. These molds are left to rest for a few hours, then the cheese is removed from the mold, and it's ready to cover our delicious pizza. Before I go, I want to send greetings to Willem 763. Another big greeting to Nicholas Valen. Greetings to Alejandro Peguero and all of the Dominican Republic. Then I'm going to greet Roman Aguirre, another greeting for Adelaide Villegas, and also a greeting for Zadrak Nava. And finally, I send a greeting to Dylan, another greeting for Mr. Panda, and a big greeting for Gabriel Martinez. And the last greeting goes to the awesome Juan Racine.